Jesse,
Yeah.
season 4 is nearly here.
Season 4 is nigh.
We're about to review creative questions from our gamer audience.
We would love to hear from our gamer audience with their creative questions. What are they curious about? What do they ponder? What do they think is a good idea and want to know if we think is also a good idea?
Yeah, that's right. And look, we're about to start season 4. By the time you're listening to this, we have tons of emails, tons of questions, and they're all perfectly brief and eloquent and wonderful. But that doesn't mean we'll never do this again. And that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. So write us in at jauntymantis@gmail.com.
Keep it brief.
All right, welcome, and well met to the Jaunty Mantis. Jesse, this is a podcast about tabletop role-playing games, but what else is it about?
Sometimes like random nerd junk.
Random nerd junk is right. We got creative questions for curious gamers. I'm one of those curious gamers. I'm Maddie, and the other one with me is my co-host, Jesse.
That's me, that guy.
The other one.
Hello from the other one verse, where I inhabit time and space.
That's right. Jesse, I have a question for you.
Oh, do ask.
Yes, and I hope this doesn't get me officially kicked off the internet, or at least the gaming portion of the internet. I'll have to go hang out.
The bar is pretty low for that right now.
I'll have to go hang out in another seedy corner of nerd internet if I get kicked out of the gamer one. But I wanted to ask this question because I feel like, what with D&D 2024 about to come up, I think like the player's handbook gets released in September, and then subsequent books come out months and months later, like the DM's Guide to Monsters manual. And I don't really know much about 2024 D&D. Like, I'm sure it's an update to the rules, and it sounds like, a lot of people have problems with various things. But my question is, like, what is the best thing about D&D 5e? Because for me, it's D&D Beyond.
I will say when it first came out, before I actually played it, but flipping through the book when I had it in my grubby little paws and was just like looking at all the pictures, just like, what is this background thing? Wow, this background thing is going to lead to some excellent role play, which didn't happen. So I'm going to say D&D Beyond.
Yeah. I love D&D Beyond. I like it a lot more than the 5e rule system. It's nice to have like a very robust online system that allows you to, start a campaign, create encounters, run an initiative if you need to, and it's like filled with a library of official material. And now they've added a bunch of independent material. Do you have a problem with that? Because apparently there are people that have huge problems with that particular aspect of it.
I think it's basically like the content library approach and the finances of it. Like, I think that's what people have problems with, because it's like microtransactions, blah, blah, blah. Like, I can't have the book, and they're finally going to start selling like a physical copy and a D&D Beyond code at the same time. So good. That needs to happen. I think the best argument I could make for D&D Beyond is like, when I think about running a D&D game, if the content is not in D&D Beyond, I immediately take a pause, because I'm like, oh, I have to do this manually. Plain Gia is so awesome, but I have to do it manually, and everybody has to have a paper character sheet. If they forget their dice, I have to give them their dice, and I have to write down the hit points of things on paper. I'm running a Rifts game. I don't know why any of that bothers me, but just knowing that when I run D&D, the easy option is out there. That's pretty great. Pretty great.
I totally agree. We just recorded the episode about how I want like our gaming bucket list, and one of mine was, or the cause of the episode was that I've never, run or played in a D&D game that's gone from 1 to 20, and I put that prospect up against like running a Cypher system game. And when I still want to run a Cypher system game, but a lot of the times what happens when you put a new game in front of me, it's like, okay, like, am I going to have to buy preview versions for everybody in the group? Are they going to buy their own books? Like, am I going to have to like set ground rules, teach the rules, like get everybody on the same page? There's all this additional work that comes with like running a new game. And like, me, I barely remember the rules to 5e. That's how I've been in the past. Like, but I get the gist of it, and I love Baldur's Gate 3. Check check that off your list. So it's just kind of easy being able to be like, hey, you could just get onto D&D Beyond, and if it's not on D&D Beyond, you can't play it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's a huge benefit, and I think it's the best part of 5e, other than maybe the more simplistic approach to a gaming system.
I think to clarify that I don't have a problem running an analog game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there's a game that doesn't have digital tools and I really want to run that game, I will run that game. I mean, case in point, I'm running Rifts. And yes, maybe that ridiculous Excel sheet is a digital tool that you're using for your characters, but
Yes,
it's not
it
a
is.
great one. Still better than nothing.
That's true.
So I don't need there to be a digital tool set, but if there is a digital tool set, I want to use that just because of the ease of play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm in there, I can see the die rolls. If we're playing remote, I can look up a fight on a whim. Like, I can
Mm-hmm.
look up a spell or a piece of equipment or a magic item. It's just all right there. And I think, because the question you asked is like, what's the best part about 5e, and is it D&D Beyond? Yes, it's gotta be. Like, that's my answer. It is, because I won't play 5e if I don't have Beyond. Like,
Wait, you wouldn't play, seriously? You wouldn't play like a in-person physical game of 5e? Like, we just break out the books and some fucking dittos of the character sheets and
I would have a tablet with D&D Beyond open with my character sheet on it. I'd still be
interesting.
using Beyond. I would play. I wouldn't run a game.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like, it's just like you, and I think it's the poison of like, the compliment you've given me is that my strength in running game is efficiency on timing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always looking for the more efficient way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that there is that efficiency gain in D&D Beyond out there, like, it'd be really hard for me to run a game without using it.
That's
So
fascinating.
I'm super excited about I bought, you might show up because I think I content shared with you. I bought the Dungeons of Drakheim book.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, on there, because I was drunk and I was like, it's Mordheim and I've been drinking and have money. So yeah. So that's on there. Shared.
Yep. So for this 1 to 20 game, do you think I should open up like whatever books you have on D&D Beyond, you can just use them? Doesn't matter if they're official WotC books or not.
I mean, the only unofficial one I have is Dungeons of Drakheim, but
Right, but what if you had the other ones that I don't know about because I don't take the time to look at that
that
stuff?
new one, the Kobold Press one about creatures of the plane of shadow with like bear druids and shit, looked really cool. Yeah, I'd say yeah.
Gotcha. See, I'm hesitant to allow extraneous supplemental material that's in D&D Beyond that's not official WotC products. There's a certain hesitancy I have it that I don't think it's found in any other real logical sense. Like, I know I saw that there's some MCDM stuff on there. Like, I
Yeah.
think the Flea Mortals book is now included in D&D Beyond. I think that's really cool that that's available, but I don't understand why there's a hesitancy that I have to not want to use it, even though like I'm not even a huge fan of all the supplemental 5e stuff. I could care less.
Is it because of how much we got burned in 3.5 by third-party shit that was utterly ridiculous? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of an era of its own, right? Like, we were buying splat books for the best possible reasons when it came to D&D 3.x. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about you. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure you did the same things that I did, which was like we would get these new books and read them cover to cover, or at least read the vast majority of it, because in addition to really liking the system and its modular nature and the customizable aspects of it from feats and prestige classes and whatnot, I also really enjoyed reading those books. I thought they were genuinely good books. So I was in love with the splat books from D&D 3rd edition up until maybe Tome of Magic and Tome of Battle, when things started to swing into the prototype 4E stuff.
Oh, was Tome of Magic prototype for you? I never made that connection.
Yeah, I think there was some DNA from 4E in Tome of Magic. It definitely wasn't Tome of Battle. But in Tome of Magic, I think that's when they were starting to experiment with what would eventually become the like at will, you know,
Oh yeah,
the will at will power, at encounter and
because you
power,
played
at
that
daily
true
power.
namer from that book that had a
Which
bunch of that
was
stuff.
a completely shitty. Somebody did not think that thing through, and then I didn't think it through when I read it. Like, and the cold glass of water that I was dumping down the back of my neck as I was realizing while we were playing it, like, oh, this is a fucking unintentional turd I decided to play. But coming from somebody who likes to play intentional turds in role playing games, it wasn't that big of a deal, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like the hours that we've spent talking about Incarnum. I mean, like, yeah.
You know, maybe I should have brought that up on the gaming bucket list episode, but Incarnum, baby.
An Incarnum game. Time to go.
I'm really just trying to get back to our like barbarian brothers. What were their names?
Oh, I don't even remember.
The
Neanderthals.
Neanderthal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was a rogue.
Yeah, Jesse and I love Neanderthals. And there was a Neanderthal option, speaking of splat books, that was in like the Frostburn book
Frostburn.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, the D&D like ice and snow adventuring book, splat book. There was a
They were at the end of
Neanderthal.
good ideas. And they're like, here's Sandstorm. That's the one that has Blessed of Timet Nu, the feat where you
Yes, the
cannot be
best
attacked
feat,
by hippos unless magically
best
compelled.
feat. Yep.
The Frostburn book had like all about playing on a glacier. And then there was the Storm Rack, which was the boat that had the Hadozi in it.
Yep.
Yay. Yeah, there was a lot. So the bloat, I think, wanting to avoid the bloat. And one of the things I think we remember about 3.5, we didn't realize at the time, but I read there was a deliberate mini game of suboptimal feats. Like feat selection was deliberately like an optimization game by design. Thanks, Monty Cook. We called you a magnificent bastard in the last game. We're going to call you a bastard in this one for that.
Yep.
But I still respect the hell out of you, sir. Please don't be mad. And yeah, I think that's the thing we might be afraid of when you're like, I don't want to put these other extra stuff in there. Because I don't think it's balance. I don't think either of us gives a shit about balance.
It's just the bloated nature of the game, right? Like, so how would bloat come to fruition in 5e? Like, does 5e even have? It has to, right? Like, bloat is a natural, organic part of any role playing game in which you release books that give you more options. Eventually, you're going to create something like the Swarm Druid. You know what I mean? That's like way cooler than the original Druid, you know?
Well, yeah, it's cooler, but here's the thing why I would say it isn't bloat the way we're thinking of with our formative gaming experiences. You don't have to learn an entire new mechanical system to play a Swarm Druid. Which is why, as much as I'm sad about it, I'm sort of glad they've never introduced psionics as an entirely separate system. Because
that's interesting.
As a DM, I don't want to learn an entire new magic or mechanic system for my one player who's into this weird Incarnum thing. Should we describe Incarnum just in case? If this is your first episode of the Jaunty Mantis.
Yes. Yeah. If this is your first episode of the Jaunty Mantis, maybe skip this part. Incarnum was this really I'm hesitant to use the word cool, but it was like this exceptionally interesting evolution of ideas that you could see the seeds of in early 3.x, and you could see how those had come to fruition. And the next logical step was something like Incarnum. And it was like a new system to like lay over the top of third edition Dungeons and Dragons,
They
basically.
had in third edition Dungeons and Dragons, you had magic item slots that sort of corresponded to the chakras of, Eastern mystical tradition, right? So you could have a pair of gloves and a pair of boots and a belt and like a necklace and a helmet, like the third eye one, blah, blah, blah. And like, what if? Like, what if we made a magic system where instead of casting spells, the casters spontaneously generated a magical effect through their chakras?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that's Incarnum. They basically like, I at this level can do gloves and boots, so I make gloves that are like gorillan claws, and they magically form over my hands, glowy and transparent, like the visionaries.
Yes, which is how it appealed to me because I fucking love the Visionaries. It's one of my all-time favorite old school cartoons from days of yours when they basically just animated commercials for toys.
Yes. Mine was in
Yeah.
humanoids, and that's I think why I
Oh,
just
yes. Yes. Love the Inhumanoids. The Incarnum system, though, they were inspired what happened out of the psionics and then the expanded psionics handbook. The psionics book had like a feat where it's like, hey, every time you take a psionics feat you will get X, and it was a way to like incentivize building a psionic character by giving you more player power by the result of you becoming more of a psionic. Like the idea being that like, hey, you may not be a scion or a psychic warrior or what were the other classes called, the psionic
soul
classes?
knife.
Yeah,
Um,
wilder,
yeah, the
stuff like that.
wilder.
So the idea was like we want to create a system that either you can go deep dive and be like a scion or a wilder or a psychic warrior, or you could be the fighter, but you have some latent psychic ability that has now come to the surface. And these psionic feats are ways for you to develop those powers and abilities at a much smaller scale, but still be able to enjoy the thematics. And I think the people who created the Incarnum system looked at that and they were like, what if we could actually do more with this, take it in a different direction? And one of the coolest things in the Incarnum playset was that totemic class, that totemic where it's like they took on the aspects of monsters that we all know and love from D&D, which is what you were talking about with the Gorillion arms or whatever.
Yeah, like
And I
Manticore's tail and stuff like.
Yeah, yeah, and that had like a really cool vibe to it. So you could have your fighter that used Incarnum feats and powers, or you could do one of these Incarnum classes and just go like balls out, so to speak.
Yes, except you would then have to learn an entirely new magic item, like magic system that involved not only spells per day and uses per day, but also tracking which slots you were. Some of them could be
Mhm.
shifted to different slots for different effects, and your DM would have to know that too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, the
that, to go back to our topic for today, the
yeah,
fear of that happening in your game may be why you're suspicious of these third party, the Book of Ebon Tides or the Grim Hollow player pack.
right. Like I don't want a bunch of new system additions. Like we've been kind of tossing around the potential of doing an episode, maybe this is it, maybe we're doing it right now, of like why do we have this need to like customize or add on to D&D 5e, like in like I've done it. I've like look, it's an amazingly cool book, the Runehammer Games 5e hardcore mode book. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a more gritty, lethal hardcore version of Dungeons and Dragons. Like this will help you get there, like where with some really cool, very interesting changes. So I highly recommend it. But it's like, like my best friend here will often say, like, why not just go play a different game? Like, why not go find a different system? Why are you trying to like, why are we trying to eternally hack 5e or D&D in general? And I realize how hypocritical or ironic, I should say, that says coming from me. But look, you got to be this close to be able to know you have a problem, right? Like, you're not, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't take away my ability to know I have, to know what I'm talking about, essentially. But what do you think?
No, yeah, I think we're on point.
Yeah, okay. So that's what we're afraid of, is like the customized hack 5e problem, you know.
Have you spent any time trying to make custom stuff in Beyond?
Oh, yeah, I have.
Because I saw some stuff in the campaign as I was making my character. I'm like,
Yes.
did Maddie make that? That's
Yeah, I have tried. I have so we made a custom race for our beneath setting example episode. But also one of our gaming buds from our group, when he was running his Takara game, he was like, "Hey, if you want to change the what is the paladin theme,
the
the
oath.
oath, yeah, to something and customize it to like the setting and the adventures you've been on so far, let me know." And so I started to do that, and I gotta tell you, it's really boring.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
really it
god.
is that is the thing I will complain about D&D Beyond. Like the homebrew custom stuff is not intuitive in its
Ugh.
usage at all.
Yeah.
And it is like it's very hard. It would be very hard to set up something that is easy, drag and drop, intuitive, that works with the complexity of all the things that have to feed in. Because with
Mhm.
all the published content, it feeds effortlessly into D&D Beyond onto your character sheet. Just pick a drop down and go. But like providing all the information the system needs to do that is a challenge, and it's still the best thing about D&D.
That begs the question then, if Beyond is the best thing for 5e and you and I have a history of, splat books and custom creations, should I create customized shit for this 1 to 20 game? Like, or should I make that an available option to our players?
Is it going to be fun for you to make it? It's
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, then no, you definitely shouldn't.
It will initially. It will initially. When I went to try to create like a new paladin oath, I didn't know how to gauge anything, you know? Like I was like, what are the ground rules here? And I feel like that's what should have been in D&D Beyond. They were like, hey, you want to create a new oath for your paladin? Here are some guidelines. Do a this and then a this and then a this and then, basically you got a new oath. And I think that would have been super helpful. And I guess
But I
maybe I
think
can look that up
like
online, but like,
the bloat of that is you'd have to do that like with that level of granularity for like every class feature, like
yeah.
every main class feature, which would take pages upon pages upon pages of content. That's kind of like why we already made these like 3 in the core book for each class. Like
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. For some reason, stuff from third edition just appealed more to try to customize, even to this day. For some reason, the fifth edition stuff just doesn't do it for me.
a fifth edition, fifth edition it's a tighter rule set.
Mm-hmm.
Like mechanically, it's tighter. There's less room for wonky. I'm not saying that you'll never, with the amount of inventedness and as more options come up, you'll never make a completely solid, like unbreakable RPG rule set. Like that's just not a thing that can exist. But
And thank
this
goodness for
it's
that.
with bounded accuracy and everything, the 5e's rule set mechanically is so tight on the way
Mm-hmm.
it works with its sliders that yeah, you can't get that bloat.
Mm-hmm.
And 3.5 wasn't. It was wild and woolly. And then even first edition Pathfinder, which by the way, if you're a Pathfinder player out there, first off, I'm sorry. And secondly, there's a book called The Akashic Mysteries that is in Carnum for Pathfinder. So third party, I think Dreamscard Press, go find that. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually better written than the Incarnum system. It has a cooler
It
origin
does.
for Incarnum powers.
It does. The theme is better. The themes are better. The rules are more efficient, and the classes are better. Like if you were to take the classes from that book and the classes from the original Incarnate book, like the ones from the Incarnate book are not as good, like from top to bottom. They just aren't.
And the story's kind of silly. So
Well, I like the silly story because, like as you pointed out, it kind of reminded me of an '80s cartoon. Like
yeah.
I could totally picture it. Uh,
What did Keith Baker say about how Incarnum fits in Ebera?
I don't know if he did. Maybe if we ever got to the point where we could meet him in real life, we could ask him.
Add that to our bucket list from the last episode.
A gaming bucket list, have Keith Baker on my podcast to grill him about how Incarnum works in Eberron.
I'm gonna email him. He'd be down. I bet he's down.
All right, cool. I look forward to that. Jesse is our communications officer for the Johnny Mantis.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, to review the main thrust of the question right here, like best thing about 5e is combat substantially different from 5e to 4e to 3.5 in a way that's meaningful to me. No, like you rolling a d20, seeing to hit. When we've talked before about like RPG mechanics, ask a question. The question's still the same question it's always been. Do I hit? How much damage do I do? So yeah, I don't know that you'd say combat is the best thing about 5e. Like there's systems that do it with more simulationist complexity. There's systems that do it with more narrative easiness. Wilderness survival has never felt fully fleshed out in 5e. Social encounters. I mean, they talked about the 3 pillars of play. They put rules for one of them in the book.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that's that. What else can I say is good about 5e? It's wide acceptance and use. That's good, but I don't know that's the best thing. So yeah. I think to answer your question, yes.
Well, let's expand on that a little bit because I know we're running out of time, but you're got to be more familiar with the rules update from 2024 5e. Like D&D Beyond has to be the best thing about this system because it should in quotations here effortlessly integrate these changes so that it's easy for you and your group to make the jump, right? Like one of the
there's
most
already when I was making Seamus Blackstick, my shillelagh wielding monk, it already said like Player's Handbook 2014, like as the source for that, because they're already gearing up. If you pre-order, you get the new Player's Handbook early.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the things people are mad about. Just like, why you got to make it like a video game? Why you got to make me pre-order digital content?
I mean, this is a problem across the board. Yeah. Yeah. Like for World of Warcraft, they're like, you sign up for the whatever edition and get early access. And it's like, that's not what this is though. What like the whole idea of an MMO is so that I can get on and play with my friends. Right. And now you're going to charge me a fee to make sure that I can do that with those of my friends who have paid for the ultimate edition or whatever it is because they love the game. And look, buy whatever you want. I don't want to tell people how to spend their money, but it's like, this isn't early access. This is a service fee to be able to play the game with your friends or wait 2 weeks.
Which is so weird because to me, it's just so dumb to do that as for RPG books.
Yeah.
Because like, who cares if you have it? It's not like you're going to get it unless you're making YouTube content about it. It's not like you're going to be like, all right, guys, it's coming out. It's releasing today. I got the early access. We're updating our characters and going for our campaign now. I mean, like, you don't need to do that. The rules aren't going to be substantially that different.
Yeah.
Like, combat is still going to ask the question, do I hit? How much damage do I do?
Yeah, I'm trying to anticipate what kind of problems you would run into because when 3.0 D&D went to 3.5 D&D, there were some hiccups and missteps. Like there was slightly different spells.
Rest in
Bards,
power, scry as a
yeah,
skill.
I was about to say like bards weren't the only ones that didn't scry. Now nobody was scrying after that.
I want to talk about this just because it was my favorite t-shirt I ever had, and I got too old and fat to wear it and lost it in a move. But I bought this at Gen Con right around the switch from 3.0 to 3.5. And so there was a skill, and it was a class skill pretty much only for bards, and it was called Scry. And you could use it to tell the future. And I found a t-shirt at Gen Con when the switch happened, and it was the Boys Don't Cry Robert Smith poster, except he was wearing like leather armor and had a lute, and it said Bards Don't Scry. And that is the most inside baseball joke shirt I've ever had, and I miss it so much.
It was a great shirt, and I think other classes could scry. Like I think wizards and sorcerers could scry. I think
Oh
bards
yeah,
couldn't
Bards just
scry from the
lost it.
beginning. I don't even know if they could do it from the beginning. Uh, I'll have to go back and look at the old 3E books, but like scry was a cool skill. You know, if you've ever watched old like I don't know, like Sinbad movies or whatever from like back in the day, those classic like pulp adventure fantasy movies that they used to make, there's usually some sort of like evil sorcerer who's like observing things through like a smoky pot with like bubbling water or cauldron. And that's how I always envisioned scry. And I was like, this is awesome. This is like such a classic skill to throw into a fantasy game. It's like, haha, I'm mysteriously watching these events unfold from far away. This is a skill.
I've made sure to stat out my NPC villains so they can scry on the player
Yeah,
characters.
exactly.
They're like, I guess I could just know what they're doing anyway because I'm the GM.
Yeah, like you needed an official reason, you know. It's like your evil sorcerer was like, I went to junior college for this, Martha. I'm using scry.
And I'll never pay that bursar my college entry fee.
Yep. All right. Anything else about 5e? Listeners, if you have a disagreement with us, if you think that the best thing about 5e is something else, we're a couple of crusty grognards who, you know, we are who we are. We've got opinions. What are yours?
We would like to know them. Please reach out to us through an electronic medium. And
send us an electronic correspondence at Gmail. Jaunty Mantis at gmail.com.
www.gmail.com.
Open your internet browser of choice.
Netscape, we don't judge.
Wow. All right, well, until next time, get out there and play some fucking role-playing games or some shit.